Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk. Tackling the stigma.
Yeah, Mental Health Monday is back for another week. We've got a couple of guests in the studio now that we're going to be speaking to from a local Super League side. And coming up on the programme between now and 3, we're going to be speaking to somebody who's been working in the field of mental health for quite some time, who's looking at mindfulness and how your family life can play a role in making sure that you're in a positive place when it comes to your mental health. For now, let's meet the team behind Widnes Vikings Offload programme. Very pleased to say joining us in the studio we have Adam Daniels. Adam, it's great to see you. Thank you for your time. The Health and Physical Activity Manager for Widnes Vikings and a bit of a legend. Phil Veivers is in the studio, ambassador for State of Mind, former Saints player as well. Phil, great to see you. Thank you for your time. Mental health and sport. Phil, this is something which I guess when you were playing, people were aware of what mental health was, but the severity of the situation, the impact that it can have on their lives, presumably wasn't taken into account in the way that it has been doing, that it is happening now. State of Mind is really getting to grips with this, and Super League clubs as well are going, let's do something about it. Let's make a difference. Yeah, most definitely. I think you had the boys on from State of Mind not so long back talking about how they started with obviously the death of Terry Newton, and that's where it all started in Rugby League, and obviously this offload program that we're dealing with now in Widnes, Warrington and Salford. That's something really big at this moment. It's a pilot scheme working with Rugby League Cares, and we're really going in hard on that, and just asking anyone in the community of those areas to drop in at the clubs, and then they have a 10-week program that they go along and enjoy. What is it about Rugby League? What is it about State of Mind that has captured clubs' imaginations? Because, of course, you can set up these schemes, but if the clubs don't buy into them, they don't really get that far. Why has it proved itself to be such a popular idea? Well, mental health is massive. It really is. Everyone has it, but when you talk about mental health with a lot of people, they tend to think it's a taboo subject, and they either look at the floor or look away and say it's got nothing to do with me. But the reality of everything is that everyone has mental health. Not everyone has mental illness, obviously, but everyone has mental health. And the better place you're in mentally, as a rugby league player as well, then you're going to get a better performance out of your team that you're trying to win the trophies with. When Danny Sculthorpe came on the programme a few weeks back, he was talking about his own experiences, but also the fact that he now can go and speak to people about mental health. And he said he was almost surprised at the sheer number of people who suddenly flagged themselves up as potentially needing a little bit of help that otherwise maybe wouldn't have done so if it wasn't for the programmes that are running within the game now. 100%, that's true. I know I do a fair bit of work with Danny and the State of Mind team. I suffered some mental health problems myself through Rugby League. So, there's a lot of ways that I used, in coping mechanisms to get myself through the mental imbalances that I had. But, I think it just goes to show that, if you're a big, hard rugby player and you can break down some stigma about, standing up and telling people or talking about what your issues are, then a lot of other people will jump on board with that, and they will come out and they will speak about what issues they have. And one of Danny's big ones is he's not afraid to cry, and that's the big point. It's something that if you've got these issues on board, sometimes asking a person, "Are you okay?" That one question, just might jolt something inside someone to say, "Hey, listen, I need to offload a little bit here," and that question could get them to sort of really open up and tell them what their problems are. And that one question could save someone's life. So let's bring Adam in from Widnes Vikings. Adam, we can talk, but actually, there are examples that are here now. Generation who grew up watching Danny Sculthorpe, another generation who grew up watching Phil. Phil's, the archetypal alpha male, isn't he? Well, if Phil's open to admitting that he had some issues, if Phil's talking about it, then we can all talk about it, right?
Well, yeah, you would think that. During our offload sessions, Phil's been absolutely fantastic in sort of telling us his story, and by him sort of pouring his heart out and letting other people in and listening to his story, we have had a very positive feedback from it. You see Phil walking in the room and you think, who's this guy at first, because he's a scary looking fella, and then
not that bad, man.
But as he starts to talk and open up to you realise, as you say, everybody has mental fitness, and if somebody like Phil, Danny, or the bigger players within Rugby League can talk about it, it does give that avenue and that bit of light for others to be able to offload.
And there is that generational thing as well. People have memories of Phil and that generation, Andy Gregory, Martin Afire, Ellery Hanley, all those boys as well. Who were seen in the Challenge Cup was always a huge thing on TV as well. I wonder whether or not it's helpful for people of a slightly older generation now to see people like Phil opening up, who they might associate with being young and peak, fit, and everything that comes with it. But now going, oh, actually, there was another story to that, and there might be another story for me too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Especially it is in the older players that it's becoming more prevalent that there was issues during that time, as well as in the modern day game. I think during the Offload programme it is targeted for age 16 to 65, so it does counter for that age group.
How do you deal with that at an age group? Say you got somebody who comes on board at the age of 50. People, I guess, by the age of 50 feel like they know themselves, or they know what they're about, they know what makes their mind tick. But actually then to engage them into a fresh way of thinking about how they think, is that more difficult to do?
I don't really think so. In terms of from a personal point of view, when I've actually sat in on all the sessions, and I've never considered myself to have any mental illness before, but listening to all the State of Mind presenters talks, it's really been a massive eye-opener for me. And when we've spoke about mindfulness, sort of relaxation techniques and so forth, I've been able to take that into an everyday life. And people who have been part of our Offload project have probably taken something from Phil's session, Ian Smith's session, Danny Sculthorpe, Jimmy Gittins, and the rest of the guys, and being able to see a little bit of themselves within their stories, and that's how they've been able to help themselves.
We've got the team on from Widnes Vikings programme. Adam Daniels with us in the studio as well, and Phil Veivers is with us, ambassador for State of the Mind, former Saints player as well. Phil, you mentioned you bring your own story. What is it about your story when you're telling hits home for people? What are those sort of key moments that you had from your own mental health point of view that really make you think now, wow, there was a real issue there?
I think the reality of everything is that everyone gets anxiety and everyone gets stress. That's something that everyone. So I tell my stories right through from when I was a player and having to strive upon that. I really relied upon anxiety, and I really knew that there was going to be stresses with injuries and also with not being picked in a side. But my issues came afterwards when I was coaching, more so than when I was a player, because I was pretty laid back as a player. But when you tell your story and the people listen to how you can be so successful, and you haven't really got any money issues, and the big point that comes across to everyone is that depression doesn't discriminate against anyone. That once it gets hold of you and puts you in a grip, it's the worst feeling in the world. And how you get away, how you can get out of that, and what coping mechanisms you use. And so I just realistically just open up and just tell them how I got into the situation I was in, how I was feeling, what suicidal thoughts I had, and also of problems within my own family at home, knowing that my nephew took his own life at the same time as I was going through a lot of my issues. And then I just realistically just tell them how I use coping mechanisms to get myself back out of that.
And in terms of your own sort of career, did you find that, high points from a playing or coaching role fell in with good points mental health-wise, or did you find that when you were having bad times of it, that was when your mental health was affected, or was it something of a roller coaster?
I think as a player, when you've got some issues as a player, because you're active all the time, and being active is a stimulant to help you get away from the dark days of the thoughts. And I think more so as a player, I tended to be able to just go out there and laugh everything off and carry on with things. But as a coach, even though I could still be active, but you're sort of in a goldfish bowl as such as a coach, and there's a lot of things swimming around your head at that stage, and it's pretty hard to get out of that situation. So working on coping mechanisms to help you get out of that is the only way that I could see taking me forward.
When you bear in mind, obviously, I called you an alpha male before, whether that was fair or not, you can decide for yourself. But did you feel like if you are in that coaching position, or you're perceived to be somebody who's supposed to be an authority, somebody who knows what they're doing, that the pressure comes with the fact that there's something in the back of your mind saying something's not quite right, that you maybe start to doubt yourself just a little bit. People just presume you're fine because you're Phil, and everyone knows Phil, and he's a top bloke, and everything will be absolutely hunky-dory with him.
Everyone has a face. Everyone has a face, and a lot of times you can't tell what's behind that face. So people know how to cover a lot of things up, and you can also put laugh and smile on anything. So me walking around with my issues, probably no one knew. My wife knew. My father-in-law knew. They kept questioning me about it all the time. So, that was a blessing, I suppose, that they notice things. But, if you know someone, that sometimes you just don't realise that there's an issue going on there. And, you talk about the alpha male, and that's generally where we deliver now. You're sort of brought up, especially in my era, I was brought up in the bush in Australia. My dad told me, that, the man of the family, you've got to earn the corn, you can't show emotion, you can't show weakness, you've got to be strong for your family. So, when you're being told that from a young age, you generally stick rigidly to that. And when you're playing in a sport that if you show a weakness, you generally become a target, it even, really makes the point over-exemplified as to you can't show a weakness. So I think now with all these guys from the Rugby League fraternity that are sort of now turning it around and saying, hey, listen, yeah, I am big, hard, tough, and I can handle it out there on the field, but realistically, I have some issues going on and I can speak about them. And you're going to break down a lot of barriers for a lot of people in the general public. What
did your former teammates say to you when they first heard your story about how you've really felt in that time, maybe working with them or subsequently?
It's a bit of a mixed bag, really. You get some people that are really disbelieving about, that you're going through the issues that you do go through. Some will say, well, you've got 4 kids, how can you have those type of thoughts and what have you? But again, going back on the reality trail is that you don't put the thoughts in your own, in your own mind. It's just a mental imbalance. It sort of all of a sudden jigs you, and then you start doing a few strange things in your life until you can turn them around. But I've had some other guys saying, really, I didn't notice, that there was anything wrong with you. I would never have been able to pick it, that you suffered from it, and you can't. And that's the message that I try to get out when we go out and speak, is that you don't really know who's suffering from this, but if you can ask a question and get a genuine answer and you can get a feel for it and that, okay, they are all right, then, there's an issue. There's not an issue there then.
Does geography play a part? People will be aware of famous cricket players you've talked about, stress-related illnesses, mental health problems, and one of the things that's always been associated with is the amount of tour time that might take place in Australia, South Africa, New Zealand. You're obviously uprooted and moved over here as well. Was there a disjoint between how you'd grown up and where you'd placed yourself? Did you ever feel an element of isolation, maybe?
Maybe. I've never ever sort of correlated that across to where I was at, really. At the time when I came across to England, I was 20 years old, so I was like, I was a drinker and a womanizer.
Full head of hair.
I had a full head of hair then, and I hadn't coached, so I come over here, had a bit of fun, and I was always going to go back. And I suppose further and further it's gone down the line, and as I've got older and my kids are growing up a little bit and whatever, that's always been in there that I've always wanted to go back to Australia. But I've sort of been here a long time now, and it's pretty hard now to uproot and go back the other way, sort of thing. But what you're saying about uprooting and coming across, it has happened to quite a number of overseas players that have come across here. That I know Willie Isu is one guy that really suffered and struggled with it when he first moved over here. He's now in a very, very good place there at Wigan. But he did struggle when he first came over, and that's one of the things about being away from family. Is one thing that can really push the panic buttons. But there is a lot of little key things that can, and they can all add up and join up together, and all them links of the chain then can add up to your depression.
I guess the other thing, Adam, people who were watching maybe the Wimbledon men's final, where Marin Cilic there breaking down in tears on the court. So people say, "Oh, what's he doing? Put yourself together. It's the Wimbledon men's final." Well, and I watched Terry Newton a lot when he was playing, and people go, "Oh, Terry's what's he on? What's up with him today? What's going on?" People will know footballers and they go, "Oh, he's not even showed up today. He doesn't even look interested." There's so much going on in people's heads all the time. I just wonder whether it just takes a slightly second for people to rethink that actually other things might be going on in people's heads. They don't have to concern themselves with those other, but just to bear in mind that those other things might be an issue for them. It just helps us get our own understanding of things like sporting performance.
Yeah, it does definitely. a big one in terms of that, where you wouldn't really take anything into consideration, is Ian Smith, who was a former Super League referee. His story it really opened my eyes to everything. As people just sat there watching the TV in their armchair, saying, "Oh, he's missed that decision. What's that penalty for?" and so forth. But when Ian talks, he tells you about the physiological aspects of everything, in terms of how he had to run between 9 and 11k every game. He made over 22,000 judgments per game. His heart rate was at 164 beats. And then there was other aspects with that, and he had to make crucial decisions. But then you've got other people who are sort of, as I say, armchairs, just scrutinising the referee, and that sort of sense of isolation and so on. You don't realise what people are having to go through. And I thought the way Ian speaks, and that's a really big one, especially for referees within Rugby League, as they seem to be dropping off out of late. But referees of all, and it shows you the real importance to get an understanding of what people are going through, and be a bit more mindful.
Some brilliant work going on with State of Mind, Rugby League Cares, and obviously Widnes Vikings. We're talking about your programme in particular today, Adam. It's a community-based programme as well, obviously works within the sport itself. If people are listening to this and are thinking, actually, there might be something relevant to me, my sports team maybe, or they want to get involved in the programme, can they sign up? Can they find out a little bit more about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so it's all on the Widnes Vikings website, so www.widnesvikings.co.uk. Also, they can contact me, Adam D, at widnesvikings.co.uk. A lot of the information is on there. The programme, Offload, we have weekly drop-in sessions. It's a Tuesday evening, 6:30 till 8 p.m. We have it runs continuously, and it will continue for 18 months or so, but we work it in 10-week fixtures. So we have weeks 1 to 10. During each fixture, we'll have a first half where Phil or another State of Mind ambassador will come in and talk. So one might be stress management. So we have different topics each week. And then in the second half, if we don't carry on talking and offloading, which we tend to do, we're absolutely fine with that. For example, in a stress management session, we'll have a yoga teacher come in. So we'll all go through the yoga together. So we always have a bit of a second half to everything. So also we have the opportunity to use the Widnes Vikings gym and get fit that way. When we've got working on sort of anger management, we'll go into the gym and do some boxing. So we have a bit of everything for everybody, really. But in terms of what people want when they arrive, I'm more than happy to facilitate what they want. So it's just sort of suck it and see how the session's going, and then we'll take it from there
and make it work for you as well. Phil, when you came over to this country, I guess hearing that stadiums will be opening their doors to members of the public, communities could be a huge part of it. I guess was pretty unheard of. But yoga sessions for people, sessions with former pros sitting down talking about their mental health as well. This sounds like a really new, modern ways of communicating with your community and getting a positive message out.
Yeah, and obviously the players do a lot of yoga now too. So that's part and parcel of some of their rehab sessions and what have you. But just touching on with Adam and this offload program. And then a lot of people ask me when I go around and say, why do you do it? Why do you do it? Well, I do it because I get a lot of emotional gain out of it. It really makes me feel good, and sort of also I find it as rehab. But one of the real reasons I do it is that we did our first program of Offload, and after we'd done the first 3 weeks, we received an email from one of the guys that had been had partaken on this first 3 week of the course, and in the email it just said, I'd really like to thank you for this Offload program. It's been absolutely wonderful. I've attended the first 3 weeks, and prior to me attending these first 3 weeks, I had some really serious suicidal thoughts, and I was in a very, very, very dark place. But after attending the first 3 sessions, I can really see that there's a way out of this, and there's a way forward, and that I can move on with my life. And that's just one person that's just changed his mind from having them suicidal thoughts. And if we can change one, that's made a difference to the community, and that's why we do it.
And it's people who've had mental health problems sharing their stories,
yes.
People reacting to that as well. You've saved a life by doing that.
Well,
collectively,
the program has, definitely, which is absolutely wonderful.
And absolute credit to everybody involved in it as well. Loads of different sort of schemes involved in this. Widnes Vikings, obviously. Adam, people can go through you as well. There's the Rugby League Cares programme as well, which operates through you guys and you're associated with. But also State of Mind, which is fast becoming this huge overarching thing, which goes out across Rugby League, Rugby Union, plenty of other sports.
We're far outgone now. We're really into the alpha male with State of Mind. We're into the fire service. We're into the ambulance. We're into the police. Really, construction workers, all the alpha male type jobs, going down to the rail workers down in London, and we do the School of Hard Knocks up in Scotland as well. So, we do travel around a bit.
Does anyone ever show up with a 1987 St Helens jersey which they want you to sign?
No. But after I get off, and then one of the presenters might crack on with the Halifax St Helens photo of that with John Penderbury diving across and me in tears after we lost or something like that. Yeah, Danny Sculthorpe, just a one. Yeah.
Gents, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it. Adam, just mention your contact details again if people want to find out more information or contact you through Widnes.
Yes, the email address is adamd@widnesvikings.co.uk.
And Phil, thank you for your time too through the State of Mind programme. Really appreciate it. Former St Helens player, something of a rugby league legend, Phil Veivers on Radio City Talk.
Radio City Talk. Tackling the stigma.
Okay, so it's Mental Health Monday. We've been talking a lot recently about the word mindfulness and what it means and about how we can apply a bit of mindfulness to our everyday lives to make our lives a little bit easier. And of course, it's about positive mental health. And somebody who's written a book about mindfulness and has also been taking a look at the results of a new survey, which I think lends itself quite nicely into the conversation about mental health. It's about conversations you have in and around your families and your family interactions. Corinne Sweet joins us on Mental Health Monday. Corinne, thank you for your time.
Hello there.
I was looking at the results of this survey and I was thinking, actually, conversations and interactions that you have around your family are, for many people, the meat and drink, the everyday stuff that people get to go through in their everyday lives. And if you've got problems interacting with your own family, I wondered whether or not that might actually bear its way out into a wider issue that people may have in regard to their mindfulness and state of mindfulness.
Absolutely. I think I was really shocked to read the results of the Fruitella survey because across the nation, the average time that we spend talking to our children is only 44 minutes a day. That's under 3/4 of an hour out of 24 hours. Where you are, it's 41 minutes. And that's not too bad because there are other places in the country where it's less than half an hour. So you're doing fairly well in terms of the sort of league table. But still, if you look at it as a whole, we're only really spending a huge amount of time doing other things other than being with our children. And I think if you link it to mindfulness or anxiety, I've just written a book actually on anxiety as well. We're all too busy, we're too rushed, we're too stressed, and the way we're living our lives is very fragmented and we're not really paying attention to our children. And this survey found that in fact 88% of parents said they wish they were spending more quality time with their children. And there's a snatch of conversation around breakfast and a bit more at bedtime, about 9 minutes, 10 minutes. But apart from that, we're not really spending time. And where you are, parents very much want to spend time talking about school, or they want to talk about what's happening in the day. And that doesn't happen because we're all too rushed, or in separate rooms, or we're not having meals together. So we're very time poor.
Yeah, and I wonder whether or not, the wording of these questions is quite interesting because we're talking about meaningful conversations and as well. And I just wonder what the value of being able to have a meaningful conversation with your children, with your family actually is. Because, of course, everyone's had hey, what are you doing that for? Oh, we're not watching this, are we? If you finished your pudding, and those sorts of conversations, they take place in households all the time. But those meaningful conversations where you're actually making almost an emotional connection with the people. What's the value, do you think, of that?
The value is huge because if it's in psychotherapists like me or psychologists, we call it contact. So if you really make contact with another person, you feel held, you feel understood, and it actually decreases the feeling of isolation. If you're not really held or you don't make that sort of contact, everything's at a very superficial level. You just don't feel connected. So it's to do with whether you feel connected or disconnected. And our modern life is very disconnected because we're all very fragmented. Our attention is on our phone, our work, on everything else except for the person that we're with. So I think for children that's quite a scary thing. It feels quite scary when parents are always preoccupied or somewhere else. You can be in the same room but you're just not there. So the mindfulness way of being is to be absolutely in the moment, in the present. And that takes a lot of effort because you have to turn everything off.
Oh, of course it does. And absolutely. People will be listening to this thinking, well, I spend, hours and hours a day with my child, but often it's ferrying them off to, after school clubs. It's dropping them off at school in the morning. It's
but actually,
it's all those moments which feels like you're in the same room, as you said, with them, but actually you're not being able to make the connection. But I guess you've got to force the connection sometimes.
Well, actually, one thing I would say is that journey somewhere is a good moment. And a lot of research shows it's when your child will open up is when you're not putting them under the headlight of how's your day been, and they say fine. If you're actually hanging out with them, you're alongside them. So you as a parent need to introduce doing some tasks in the house, not shouting at them and ordering them about and telling them what to do sort of tasks, or guilt tripping or putting down sort of tasks, but where you do it alongside, where you teach them something. You teach them to make cookies, you teach them how to rub down a chair and paint it, you teach them how to weed the garden or cut the grass, you teach them how to hang out the washing, and it's not a bullying, go on, do that or you'll be a blah. It's very much
an experience.
Come on, let me show you. And obviously if you're cuddling up on the sofa to watch a film or a box set or something like that, you can share, or you can have chocolate, or you could have your favourite takeaway. You actually make it into a nice moment. Or if you're going on a journey, you can have your little sweets as a treat, I would do that with my daughter. And then you have a nice feeling, you get a feel-good feeling, and then your children will actually open up to you more. So I think you have to put the time in, you have to give them attention, and it's not just sort of putting them on the spot and guilt tripping them because their room's untidy. It's very much about being alongside.
And making the time and say, right, I'm not going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit down with my child and have that little moment with them. One of the results as well, parents claim that if they had more time to talk to their children, they would want to find out how happy they are and how they are feeling. And I thought there's almost a tragedy written within that, isn't there? That actually at the time that parents get with their children, they don't get enough time to go deep enough to actually get a sense of the overall well-being, mindfulness and happiness of their own child.
Well, there is that old saying that children need a damn good listening to, and we all do, actually, parents as well. We need a damn good listening to, and we have traditionally done that in the pub or over the garden fence or at the market or the shop, and those things are disappearing for parents. The pub's disappearing, the garden fence has disappeared, the shops have disappeared because everything's online, so we don't get that contact. And we need to be listened to, the children need to be listened to. So often when you sit down, you cross your arms, you stare at your child, say, right, it's spilled, tell me all about it. They don't want to talk then. You have to find a way of being together so that you open up and they open up. Or you can't just put kids on the spot and say, how happy are you? Because they won't know what you mean. But, you can actually share things with them. That's one of the reasons why children get on with grandparents quite often, is because they're more relaxed, they have more time, they might be on the allotment. And as granddad's digging up the potatoes, shows you how they grow and, oh gosh, look, they come out the ground. I didn't know that. There is that moment where they can start talking about things that mean something to them and begin to have that experience. If you fly a kite together, if you play a board game together, it's not all gadgety based. Then actually I think that you begin to get more interaction and more contact.
In terms of the books you've written about mindfulness and anxiety as well, if there's one thing that people can take away from the programme today that might just give them a little bit of a extra weaponry, if you like, to take on their day and take on some of the maybe issues that they're facing in regard to their own mental health at a sort of a lower danger level, if you like, from some of the major issues that people are facing, what one thing would you suggest for them to do, Corinne?
I'd say turn off to turn on. So in other words, I'd say make a bond that if you share a meal together, turn off your phones and just share that meal and sit at a table and turn off the telly, turn off things and just do that. And if you're going to have a treat, snuggle up together, get a nice blanket, get under it, watch something good and share a treat together. and really actually just be with each other and giggle together and talk about it afterwards.
Corinne, thank you for your time. Psychologist, broadcaster, author Corinne Sweet. Thank you for your time and thanks for joining us on Mental Health Monday.
It's a pleasure.
Radio City Talks Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
You're with Radio City Talk. My name's Mick Coyle. This is Mental Health Monday. Thanks for downloading the podcast. Here's a bit of a podcast extra for you, something that we actually covered as part of the regular Radio City Talk Liverpool live show. We were invited down to the launch of the new Young Persons Advisory Service Plus North Hub. That's a bit of a mouthful, but YPAS have opened another of their mental health service centres in Liverpool. This time in North Liverpool. It's got open doors where you can go in and get advice when it comes to mental health, go and speak to somebody about mental health, or go and get some information that might help out a friend or a loved one. It's based on Croxteth Road in Croxteth. We were invited down to the launch, and there was Steve Rotheram. Now, Steve is the Liverpool City Region Metro Mayor, and he spoke to me about the importance of this facility and the great work that it can do. He also had his own anecdote about how a constituent had contacted him during his time as an MP to talk about their own mental health and a severe situation that he faced head on.
Hiya Mick, I'm doing a live outside broadcast to you.
What a pro you are. What a pro you are. Mental health is obviously a huge, huge issue. As soon as you speak to the guys at YPAS, Steve, you know that they are right across 1,000 different issues. When you speak to the likes of Monique and the projects team down there, they are doing wonderful work, aren't they?
They are doing wonderful work, and some of the statistics behind this is that 1 in 5 children will experience a mental health difficulty at least once during the first 11 years of their life, and that then often goes on to have an effect on their adult mental health. So if we can do things to intervene at an early stage, it's much better for the person, of course, but when we've got limited resources in respect to national health and well-being and certainly our mental health issues, then it seems that this is the sort of initiative that we need to be rolling out much wider and further.
It's in North Liverpool. North Liverpool has got various issues community-wise as well. But actually, for this to be in the heart of the North Liverpool community means there's a connection there that hopefully will ring true for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, and the people here have all sorts of issues, to tell you the truth, just like anywhere else in the whole country. But this community hub is a coming together of people who live locally. And it's not only about coming here and perhaps receiving some of the tuition and doing some of the courses, but it's a networking opportunity for people to fully understand that they're not alone with the particular problem that they have within their family.
I just wonder, in terms of you being a politician, obviously a very high-profile figure for many years now, Steve, that actually mental health is something that, you know, constituents have contacted you about in the past. Because for many years, often people heard about these things, didn't really know where to point people outside of organisations like Mind and the Samaritans.
Well, I've just spoken to a group of people, and I had a pre-prepared speech, as you know, on most occasions a politician does. And just listening to the people speaking before me, I told a story of what happened to me personally. And I was just about to go into a really high-level meeting in Parliament and check my emails on my phone, as I always did. And there was one from a young constituent who contacted me because they'd seen me doing some stuff on the telly, who said, he was 16 or 17 years of age at that time, who said, I've been to the doctor because I've got some mental health issues. They've referred me for consultancy or some counselling session in 6 weeks' time. That's too far for me, and tonight I'm going to take my own life. And I've just relayed this, and actually it's quite an emotional thing, because I was faced with one of those sort of sword of Damocles moments where I was letting people who'd come to London down to specifically meet with me. But I couldn't ever, allow my conscience to exist with the thought that I'd not tried to do everything that I could to talk somebody out of the terrible situation they were in. So we got the address and Googled it and found a home address and got a mobile phone number, and I spoke to this person. And, they were in absolute despair, but fortunately was able to convince them that we would do something and we would be able to tackle the underlying issues that person had. And it was fantastic to, if you like, to intervene in an issue that, although I have little personal understanding and experience of those sorts of things, that I was able to turn this young person round, and they went on then to, believe it or not, become a member of the Labour Party and all sorts of stuff, but really getting active in their own communities. But it's purely because I think mental health is seen as the Cinderella of the mental health issues. And to say to somebody who has real problems of mental health to come back in 6 weeks or come back in even a few days, I just think shows the problem that we have. We need to destigmatise it, but also we need to put funding in so that we can fully support those people who have similar sorts of issues and problems.
And I wonder whether or not actually, centres like this one mean that if people are aware of them and they're aware of the great many organisations that are out there, that instead of going to a local MP, someone go, okay, I maybe didn't get the response that I was looking for in the time frame I was looking for from a local GP, but maybe I could go down to the YPAS centre in North Liverpool, in town, in South Liverpool, and go and see somebody and get something from them now.
Yeah, and if you can hear applause in the background, that's because Tony Bellew has just walked in as well. He was supporting this, so it's a fantastic charity. And you're right, early intervention is the way forward. It's not just a monetary thing, of course. If we intervene early, it's been demonstrably proved that will save money in the long term. But it's about people's health and well-being, and surely, as a society, these are the things that are most important to all of us. If people are suffering, then I think we should do everything in our power to try and help them out. And as I say, for far too long, the mental health issues of this country have been something that have been swept under the carpet. Jeremy Corbyn appointed Luciana Berger as the first ever shadow minister for mental health, and Luciana now is my mayoral lead for mental health in the Liverpool City region. We're not going to allow it to happen here, and hopefully people will be much more aware of the support that is out there if they are suffering.
And when you've got organisations like the Young Persons Advisory Service based here on Merseyside, when we were just talking last week about the launch of the Hub of Hope from Jake Mills, a comedian who's based out of Crosby, who's had his own mental health issues as well. When we talk about the work that Luciana Berger is doing as well, there is a grassroots mental health movement in Liverpool, which I wonder if that is replicated elsewhere. We'd be in a much more better place nationally. Liverpool and Merseyside appears to be really talking up mental health in a way that you maybe don't hear from other areas.
I think you're spot on. I think once again, where Liverpool City region leads, others will follow. And I think other people in other areas will also be asking for what's happening here at this hub. And there are others that are already up and operating. There will be some more coming on stream. And, great thanks must go to the likes of Liverpool City Council and the leadership that they've shown to start to tackle the underlying and the fundamental issues that too many people in society have. A lot of these things are societal, but we can all have to do everything that we can to try and help those people who do have problems. And I was again saying to some people I'd met earlier, when I was a young lad, I know that's going back some time now, some people might say, but when I was a young lad, I don't remember the same pressures that people are under now, and I don't believe that there were the same expectations on us when we were young kids as there are now. So I understand the pressures, and those pressures sometimes manifest themselves in mental health issues. And so we do need now, as a whole society, to move forward to tackle the very real problems that too many people in Liverpool City region, but throughout the whole country, have regarding their mental health and well-being.
Steve, thank you for your time today. Appreciate you joining us on the programme.
Thanks again, Mick.
That's the Liverpool City Region Metro Mayor, Steve Rotheram, speaking to me from the launch of this new YPAS hub, which has been set up in North Liverpool. Croxteth Road in Croxteth is where it is, and it's got an open door policy so you can get advice, just somebody to speak to, a little bit more information about mental health services, and it's all run in conjunction with the likes of Liverpool CALMS, the Child and Adult Mental Health Services. So check that out, ypas.org.uk. One man who's very pleased that it's been set up is a local councillor. Barry Kushner is his name. He joined me on the programme to talk about the value it'll give to the Croxteth area.
I know YPAS from all the sort of dealings that we've had with them and support what they're doing in terms of providing mental health services and support for young people in the community where we know there's a need.
Steve Rotheram was quite emotional when he talked about a young person who contacted him as an MP at the time with a cry for help in regards to their own mental health. I wonder if that's something that you'd experienced in your own line of work, the people coming to you saying, I'm in a desperate situation here and I really don't know what to do.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've got outside of my own family, I've got constituents whose children have committed suicide, whose friends have killed themselves, or parents who have come to me with where young people have taken their own life, and it's always the one thing that's in common with all of that is that they've all done it without any of them coming to the attention of mental health services. But they do talk to their friends, and at times they sort of mention these things in school. And that's why something like this, where you can just drop in, you can relax, you can sit off, you can have a chat. If you need that sort of one-to-one support, you can have it. That's why it's so important for young people to feel that they have got somewhere to go to get some of these things off their chest.
What sort of things have been talked about today in terms of the services that will be available for people at this new centre at Croxteth Road?
Well, I mean, just what I've described, really. I mean, it's partly sort of a drop-in. It's and what I'm looking at now, I'm looking at a sort of quite big kitchen area with a bar around it where you can have tea and coffee. There's a couch where you can sit down and have a chat. There's a pool table where you can play. There's private rooms off it where you can have that sort of private one-to-one counselling if you need it, and there's information and advice for young people about what they can do next, or if they need some additional support. So all those sort of facilities and services are available for young people in these community hubs, and this is obviously one of 3 in the city.
I mean, in terms of the way that the city's reacting to this as well, YPAS is sort of an independent organisation, but it has become the real focal point, hasn't it, for young people's mental health as well. They take on a tremendous responsibility for young people in North Liverpool. They've already got the centre in city centre location as well. They're in South Liverpool too as well.
In Bellevale.
They're really sort of going about their business in a way which is about face-to-face with the community, being open, being obvious as well, and having open doors.
Yeah, that's right. And there's one the other centre is in Bellevale, but yeah, of course that's really important. I'll tell you why. Because we know that 50% of problems, mental ill health issues that adults face start when they're children and young people. And we know that 70% of young people who are experiencing these problems, we just don't reach. And that's because we haven't been able to have this kind of support based on the ground in community settings where young people can have that opportunity just to start to talk about things at a very early stage so that things and issues in their mind don't escalate. And we know, young people are under enormous pressure, and that was something else that Steve Rotheram mentioned, and I was referring to as well. And even within my own family, I've seen it around the experience of either bullying, of bereavement, the constant testing and pressures in school, and then wider than that in the city, we know the issues and growing issues around domestic abuse that unfortunately children, young people are witnessing and having to live through, and some of the impact that can have. So these are kind of things that we need to address at a very early stage, and that's why these hubs are so important.
Yeah, and I wonder whether or not anyone who was down there today can't help but be moved by what they've heard in terms of the importance of the work that goes there. But only just a few weeks ago, YPAS were in the studio telling us about the funding cuts that they're facing as well. I mean, I guess with what you've heard today about the work that needs to be done, your own experience too, Barry, funding can't come soon enough and can't well be enough for the amount of work that goes on in organisations like this and the difference it can make to people's lives.
And I have to say that when I hear the Prime Minister talking about making mental health a priority, when at the same time we've seen a cut of 43% in the funding for this YPAS and community mental health service in the city, you just think, well, does she mean what she says? I mean, at the end of the day, it's really important that the government ring fences mental health funding, as it says it will do and is doing, but it isn't, to make sure that services like this have a future and have a future planning, that they know that the staffing and the services that they're providing can be provided not just for this year or next year, but for the foreseeable, for 5-10 years, because it's really important to maintain that over a long period of time. I mean, as a council, we're talking to YPAS about what kind of we can fill a little bit of that gap to provide some of that support where we can, but this is a massive cut. This is £745,000 a year. This is absolutely disastrous, and the government need to sit up and take notice, because it's not just happening here, it's happening all around the country.
And in terms of, Barry, of the sort of people, your constituents who come to you and talk about some of the issues that they may be facing in their lives, do you feel with these centres, these hubs that have been set up, that you now have a point where you can say, go through the doors there and you will find the help that you're looking for, or at least somebody who can point you in the right direction?
Yes, absolutely, and it's not just here. I mean, they're also based in schools as well, in primary schools and senior schools. So, and I should say that, and it's important for people to hear this as well, that they've been providing support for those young people who have been affected by the Manchester bombing. And we know, and I said this before myself, that the services have to be here all the time. You can't just make a time, a date, an appointment when somebody needs support, because you don't know when it might arise. The issues that people and things that young people have seen in the Manchester arena might not affect them for another 2, 3, 4, 5 months yet, but the service needs to be there when they need it, so they can just drop in, or they can access it through their school. So I think all these access points are really important, and also why it's important why they're linking up with our own council, children's services, early help hubs, which are around in three centres around the city as well, so that we're working together, and young people and families can access these services from a number of different points.
Barry Kushner, thank you for your time. Really appreciate you joining us on the programme.
OK, thank you. See you, Mick.
Liverpool City Councillor Barry Kushner there, speaking to us on Mental Health Monday. But really on the programme, we've saved the best till last, because Tony Bellew is becoming a household name right across the UK. He's a local boy made good. He's even appeared in that Rocky film called Creed. He's now a world title holder in his own regard, and he was asked to cut the ribbon at the opening of that new hub in North Liverpool. He thinks it's an absolutely vital service, and it's great to get him on Mental Health Monday.
It's massively important. We need to talk about it. People need people to talk to. I'm sure there's not a person in the world who's not going through some kind of problem, so it would be nice for people to talk more. It's a kind of topic that's hidden away, and it's like it's put away out the public eye. It's as if it doesn't exist at times, but it does. It does happen. It is out there, and it needs addressing. And it's down to places like this, that we need more of. We need more places like this where people can come and explain the situations. Because it has been something of a taboo problem in the past. Now, in your profession, I think Frank Bruno famously has had treatment, and as a big blue, you'll know Aaron Lennon's just got back to training after he had issues. So it's something people should talk about and not shun. Ricky Hatton also, you're 100% correct, as is a friend of mine, as Lennon. And it's... I can't imagine what's going through these guys' minds when they're trying to take their own lives. It's really, really frightening. I've been to some dark places in my life. I really have. I've come through a hard upbringing in a tough area, and I've had tough times in my career as well. Listen, it hasn't always been plain sailing and easy. I've had defeats. I've had knockdowns. I've had knockbacks in life. I left school with no qualifications. So, like I said, I've been through some dark moments myself. It is nice to be able to talk to people. I'm lucky I've always had my missus next to me in them dark moments and dark times, and my parents as well. And I've got some of the best friends that I could ever wish to have. But not everyone's as fortunate as me, and not everyone has got them that base around them, good friends, family, and more importantly, a loved one next to them as well. So I'm very fortunate.
What would it have meant to you when you were younger to have a place like this just around the corner?
I was very fortunate when I was younger. We had many youth centres, so I had places like, I spent an awful lot of my childhood at a place called the Rodney that was on Myrtle Parade. It's no longer there now, it's actually a furniture shop. So a lot of my youth was spent there on Myrtle Parade and stuff like that. And then after that, a youth club called the Wreck that was on Ale Road. An awful lot of my childhood was spent there. The Heart Hill, the Unity, kickboxing clubs, boxing gyms. So very little of my time was spent on the actual streets, and it's alarming and worrying now, because very little time is spent in places like this with children these days, because there just isn't many of them around. The one-off places. I don't know where another place like this is in the whole of Liverpool. So, you know, it really is. It's a great thing getting this up and running and doing what the staff and the people around there are doing. It's great because, like I say, when I was younger, we had so many different youth centres, and I'm going to be totally honest, like I said, I'm from a tough place, and you know, there's lads who I've grown up with who are dead now, there's lads who I've grown up with who are in jail now doing life sentences, and there'd be an awful lot more if we never had them youth centres. There would be an awful lot more criminals without them, because if it wasn't for Rotunda ABC, the boxing gym, I wouldn't be where I am today. If it wasn't for Jimmy Albertine, who passed away sadly many years ago, I would not be anywhere where I am today. I'm a lad I'm a normal lad, make no mistake about it. I'm no one special. And I've had a great journey in my life. I've been in Rocky films, I've won world titles, I've boxed at Goodison Park, dreams come true for me. I've defeated heavyweight champion of the world. I've done it all. It's crazy when I look back at the story of my life, but make no mistake, I am just a normal lad from Liverpool. A little scally, you can call me whatever you want, but that's what I was. A kid with not a hope, who left school with no qualifications, was told he was going to be nothing. A little fat kid, and I turned out all right. And it's down to places like this why I am in a position that I am in now. So without places like this, the Rodney, the Rotunda, the Wreck, all them places like this place now, you know, you need these places for the youth to have places to go to do things, because if they haven't got places like this, what are they going to do? They're just going to be on the streets, and they've only got themselves to, you know, juggle around or mess around with it, and ultimately it's only going to lead to the wrong way, down the wrong path. And you know, it is a place like this that saves children's lives.
It's incredible to think even only a couple of years ago that mental health wasn't really talked about. Do you think that sport can play a big part in getting that conversation sort of going, particularly amongst young people? We've seen with Aaron Lennon this week sort of speaking out and saying it's okay to seek help. You mentioned Frank, you mentioned Ricky as well. How big of a part do sports people like yourself have to play to get young people to talk about their mental health?
Well, the best thing about it is if the highest, most famous celebrity sportsmen can go through hard times and suffer depression like these do. Now, never forget, we're painted as if like life is great for us, and because you've got money that everything is okay. It's not. Mental health issues affect, it doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are, mental health issue can get anybody. And it is the right thing to do is to talk about it to people. Go and see, you know, your doctor, or go wherever help you get, or even better still, come here. You know, there is help out there, and people do need to talk about it. We do not need to treat this like, you know, it's amazing how much more publicity some of the other illnesses get. You know, cancer is $1 billion a year foundation in charity, but I don't see any charities that want to help mental health. You know, I really don't. So these are the things that need putting in place. It's an illness. It's a very serious illness, and it's something that needs looking at, and help needs to be put out there for people, you know, who have mental health issues. It is okay to talk. Listen, I've been there myself. I've been there at the times where I feel like I'm having a breakdown because I can't go. If I go left, I'm doing wrong. If I go right, I'm doing wrong. So I'm speaking from personal experience. I can't imagine what the likes of Asa went through, Ricky, Frank, Bruno. These guys tried to take their own lives. You know, it's an illness, and it needs addressing as soon as possible, and help needs to be given to the people who need it.
Do you think we've got to a turning point now in that conversation, really, in the fact that mental health is now being talked about a lot more often?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's not a stigma no more. It's not hidden away as much as it was before. I mean, years ago you'd see somebody on the news would come up and they go like, I'm having a mental breakdown, and people would go, there's nothing wrong with you, or you know, people would, like I say, it was put on a shelf. It's like it wasn't important. It's like it wasn't happening, and these people were acting. It's not. It's an illness, and it has to be respected and treated as an illness. And you know, that's the only thing I could possibly say. Just people need help. And, you know, the right thing to do is to talk to the people who can help you.
There you go. That's Tony Bellew speaking to one of our reporters at the launch of the new YPAS North hub for mental health services based on Croxteth Road in Croxteth. Great to get him on the programme as well. Loads moving across the world of mental health. If you've got a story that you'd like to share, do send it in. If you've got an event or a service you want to talk about, mick@radiocity.co.uk is the email address. That's mick@radiocity.co.uk, and we could be talking about you and your story, your events and your programmes very soon here on Radio City Talk. It's Mental Health Monday, and we're back next week.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
This is Radio City Talk.